Hey, brother, are you frustrated that the people in your life aren't doing the things that you think that they're supposed to be doing? Are you frustrated that they're not concerned about your happiness? That when you give them advice, when you tell them what they should be doing, that they seem to ignore you? Do you feel kind of dismissed and disregarded?
Well, and when that happens, it's where is your focus and locus of control? See, nice guys, their focus is on the external.
Well, let's talk. Hold on. Let's do some definitions of terms, right? What are we talking about, right? The nice guy. If you haven't read No More Mr. Nice Guy, I highly recommend that you go
Every
read that
man,
book.
every man should read that book multiple times.
Every man that we give that book to says, "This guy is in my head. How is he reading my private thoughts? He's
Yeah.
under my bed. He's in my closet, right? He's a fly on the wall of our private conversations in my home."
People have even wondered if there are cameras in their home.
Yeah.
That's how.
And in that book, he talks about covert contracts. He talks about these silent conversations that we have in our head, where we say, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for Dennis, and so therefore, Dennis will want to do this for me." And then when ultimately Dennis doesn't do what I think he's supposed to do, because Dennis was never a part of the conversation, he was never party to the contract. Then I'm frustrated and resentful that he doesn't care about me, and he's not doing what I think he should be doing.
And to make this a crystal clear point, in your marriage, how many times have you done something to make her happy? Well, if I clean the house and I do this, maybe we'll have sex tonight. And you expect sex because you were a good boy and did all the things to please her. That doesn't make her want to have sex with you, as you've learned.
Yeah. When my wife said, "I don't want to be married anymore," I felt like a failure. And after I got over the initial shock, I was really confused, because I thought, I've done everything I was supposed to do, right? I felt like I had shown up, like I had really worked hard, that I had worked hard to love everybody and please everybody and all of that kind of stuff. But really what I had done is I had come up with a lot of expectations, a lot of covert contracts. I had a lot of ideas about what other people were supposed to be doing, and they weren't doing it.
And it's funny, were you happy and pleased? Because you were doing everything to make sure everyone else was.
No, I was not happy. I wasn't pleased. But going back to that phrase that you used earlier, this external locus of control, I was looking outside of me. I was looking to others for my happiness. I was looking to others for my safety and security. I was looking for others for signs of my own value as a person.
And when I was divorced all those years ago and got, as I described, kicked to the curb, same thing, caught completely off guard. After the divorce, I looked towards women and sex as a way to validate myself externally. And Charlie's heard me describe it. It's like trying to fill a colander, because you can never get enough of what somebody can't give you. And one of the things we help men understand and learn to change their mindset around is self-validating, as opposed to seeking external validation. It's okay to get confirmation. If you're killing it on some things and somebody goes, "Hey, that whatever you did you did an amazing job," hey, thanks. That's confirmation. But we've grown into a society that is constantly looking for validation from external points. And it would be terrible if at this point I didn't say, "Please make sure you like this video so everyone sees how good it is." But you know what? There's a lot of, in life, people who only look at external validation. And the one common trait they all have is they're really not happy. They look happy, they say they're happy, they present as happy people, but honestly, they don't enjoy their life.
Yeah. So here's a note from my own journal. I've decided I want to start opening up these journals.
From about 5 years ago. I'm looking at the date.
July 29th, 2018, to be specific, right? And there's a lot of stuff in here that
Oh yeah, you were a lot younger back then.
that might resonate with you. But here's one that might really stand out to you, right? Stop giving a shit about what other people should be doing, so that when you're irritated at them for not listening to your advice, what you're really doing is hiding from your own fear of failure. So here's one of the things that I found myself doing. I found myself telling my wife, my kids, my friends, coworkers and stuff, oh, you know what? What you ought to do is, what about this thing? Have you seen this thing? This thing would be great for you, right? I had everybody else's life figured out except for my own. and I would give these things to them. I would hand these things to them, with the idea, with the spirit of bettering them, right? Making life better for them. Helping. But, and as a man, we come to know that when we do that, we're actually not just handing over a piece of information, we're kind of handing over a piece of ourself, like our sense of self, right? Like I'm telling you,
I did this, and I know this is important, and I'm sharing it with you.
And I'm wanting to like impart that. I want to give that to you. It's something that we kind of offer up to that person, right there. It's not always from a place of selfishness. Sometimes it's just from a place of genuinely wanting to help. But I was doing that so much that I wasn't actually dealing with my own life, right? It was easier for me to look outward and tell everybody else what they should do than it was to look inward and recognize that there was a hole, that there was a vacuum, and that I needed to plug that hole for myself.
And when you do this work, there's a shift. So my son is self-employed, doing some things, and there was, he needed to do a Roth because his line of work doesn't have retirement and all that. And if I'd have told him that, he wouldn't have done it. And as he was getting older and doing this work, I kind of started having conversations with him about things without ever saying, you need to or you should. Only because at some point I figured out it wasn't effective. And I think I came from a more loving place, And then he opened a Roth, and I gave him some books to read. And he's reading some now of the books we give men. But again, if what he takes from them will be individual. Whether he does or doesn't read all of them, I can't do anything about that. All I can do is, out of love, say, here you go. Here's what and I don't require a book report. There was a time I would have done that. I would have tried to bribe him. I would have done things to make sure he took in this information because it's important. And you and I know you're ready for that information when you're ready for that information. And if I give input now, I just try to say, hey, something I've seen that's helpful for others. I try to take it away from being all about me. You might look into this. I've had a number of people who have found this very helpful. And then I'm not tied to an outcome anymore. See, I used to always be tied to like you said, you're looking for them to then take the advice you've given.
Yeah, there's a difference between saying this is what I've experienced, this is what happened for me, this is what I've learned, and just sharing that with somebody.
Yeah.
But not telling them necessarily what they should or shouldn't do, because a lot of times what happens is we resist, right? We reject. It activates the part of our brain that actually does some comparison and analyzing, and it throws us into a mode of being able to figure out, is that true or not? But when we listen to somebody else's experiences, then what we do is we go into a process of being able to think about that in relation to ourselves, and then we make decisions for ourselves, which is ultimately what we should be doing.
Right. And sometimes they line up perfectly great, sometimes they don't, and sometimes we're not aware of all of the backside of the story and that person's existence. So who are we to say that this recommendation is perfect for you?
Yeah.
That's what we tell men. We ask questions and we share experiences. We don't typically, with few rare exception, tell them you need. How often have you said you need to do this?
Right. No, not never. I mean, I
In a couple of divorce situations, I can count on one hand any given year because of some things that I'm dealing with men.
and generally when you're doing that, you're telling them it from a place of probability, right?
Yes.
Knowing that this is, this is what you've seen before. This is how
Right.
it generally goes, right? Like just trying to emphasize where they are so that they understand.
But that's the exception. But the reality is we just want them to start to change the perspective a little bit
Right.
and understand there's a whole other breadth of experience that might impact their decision making.
Yeah. So if you find yourself being frustrated that other people aren't doing what you think they should be doing, if you find yourself feeling dismissed, disregarded, unappreciated, then go down in the description, down there, there's a link. Click on that link and reach out. Reach out and let's have a conversation. Let's give us an opportunity to ask you some questions so that you can come up with your own answers for yourself, so that you can get some new insights and new perspective and be able to free yourself from that frustration and resentment.
You might just surprise yourself how good your answers can be too.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.